Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about the Dark Quarter, a brand new game coming to Kickstarter from Lucky Duck and Van Ryder Games. Now, the short cliff notes of what this is going to be a story-driven, app-based game that allows you to take on the role of a detective, mysteriously searching through the occult, running into ghouls, goblins, ghosts, vampires, and all things creepy and magical coming out of New Orleans. This game is immersive. It is thrilling. And it is mature. Probably one of the first board games to come onto the scene that embraces the idea of an M rating on a video game and takes it full throttle, with cursing, violence, and imagery that is, anything but pleasant. You'll find yourself, like any good detective, dealing with a crime scene on the side of the street, picking pieces of paper out of the throat of the victim, and searching the bound hands or the wheel that was used to rack his bones into dust. This is incredible. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the Dark Quarter, what Lucky Duck is doing here, and how Van Ryder Games and Lucky Duck are collaborating on this project. So, if you're familiar with Destinies, it's going to be an app-based game, heavy storytelling. This takes the foundation that Destinies set and actually opens up the world in a much more compelling way. Now, don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love Destinies, but the Dark Quarter is absolutely a swan song of this genre. This allows you to take the role of various different detectives, each with their own personal side stories. And instead of being semi-cooperative, right now in the prototype we have, this is fully cooperative, which means we're going to be diving in head first, working together to not only uncover our own mystery, but also the mystery that's set here before us on the table. We're going to be working with a bureau, a detective agency that works in all things strange, mysterious, and occult, and we'll be answering to a few higher authorities along the journey. Sometimes it might be the app telling you need to hurry things up or giving you a helpful hint, but for the most part, you're thrust into this world and it's up to you to discover what exactly lies around. Now, instead of tiles that are flipping like you saw in Destinies, here we're actually going to be flipping cards that'll have different locations and items on them, and they'll be zoomed in on the map that we have out here in front of us. The larger map will be the framework of the city, what we're currently exploring, and where we are in certain specific locations. Whereas each one of these cards will be a sequence of events. Do you go farther into the graveyard, open up a door into the bedroom, or potentially walk from the crowd to the detective to the body itself, like a magnifying glass zooming in and narrowing in on the story that you're telling. The cool thing about this top board, though, is as long as we're in the same specific scene as one of our allies, we'll be able to use, manipulate items, dice, and other abilities to give them extra benefits and work our way through the story maybe a little bit easier. Now, this is not an easy game by any means. This is a hard game to knuckle in and get through, and right now we're getting D's out of A's on our rating at the end of the score sheet, and we've played through this prototype multiple times at this point. Now, why are we getting D's? Well, it might just be because the story, the narrative, and the way that you explore your own personal history is so compelling, we don't always go straight for the objective. It could also be that from time to time we've had to ask for help and take hints along the way, and I could blame that on just being drunk with winter moulins for the majority of the gameplay. That being said, if you like Destinies at all, and you don't mind a little bit of cussing and a little bit of bloody, gory occult references, this is a no-brainer. But for those of you that are still holding out on Destinies, let's talk a little bit more about the framework of this puzzle. You see, this takes what Detective did from Van Ryder Games, which as far as I'm concerned is the best detective style board game out there on the market, and applies that writing and that character progression and that conversation into a digital game system. You see, one of the things that Detective did so well from Van Ryder Games is the way that you could interact with the DM, the Dungeon Master, the storyteller, as they guide you through the story. Answering questions, allowing you to ask anything you wanted, and having that constant back and forth. They have an immense amount of skill at compelling writing and also narratives that maybe are beyond what you'd initially expect. And here in the Dark Quarter, Van Ryder Games is doing just that, highlighting their most powerful feature of that original game, which is going to be the conversation. This game has a lot less to do about regional exploration, like Destinies did, and here we're diving into routes and lines of conversation. Instead of succeeding at a strength check, even though you might run into those from time to time, here you're deciding, do you intimidate, do you persuade, do you cast a spell, how do you engage the people you're talking with? And the greater successes you find, the better you're going to be able to, well, possibly interact with them. The more questions you can ask, and every question you ask might lead to something more interesting, more compelling, or a whole pathway and a whole series of new possible answers and questions. The Dark Quarter takes all of that and then puts it in the framework of a personal story and a larger overriding story. In the prototype here, and by the way, we have gameplay, 2 of them actually, for you to check out if you're interested in a 2 or 3 player gameplay of this title. You can always double check there if it's going to be the right one for you and your gaming group. But it takes that and it sets you in this framework of a murder mystery. And the story is supposed to be serial, right? So you'll play through from one step to the next, diving in and really discovering who your characters are, where their backstories come from, and exactly what's happened here in New Orleans. I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to say it, and the tongue that was given to me from Kentucky has never once said it right, as far as most people are concerned. Throughout the course of this, you're going to be getting items, getting clues, and also getting evidence files. These evidence cards are going to go into a shared pool that will allow everyone to search and discover and ask questions about different evidence items that they have, to themselves for closer inspection, to people around the map as they engage and ask more questions, and more and most importantly, this is a shared resource that you always have access to, meaning you're able to always add and get more context and information as other players are hopping around the board discovering their own clues and items. Along with that, you'll still have your personal stockpile full of usually more personal modifiers, skills, abilities, and items. And instead of the grail items that you had in Destinies, here we're going to be working with upgrade stats and cards. Your characters will gain a shared pool of experience, and that experience throughout the course of the game can be traded for benefits, upgrades, and ways to modify your personal character deck. So, with that, let me tell you, I guess, the high and the low, the very best and the things that you might want to consider before you decide to back this, because I am head over heels all in on this one. And the best gut check is just going to be, did you like Destinies? If you liked Destinies, then this is an absolute no-brainer. Outside of that, if you still aren't convinced on Destinies, ask yourself, do you like occult mysteries? Do you like detective stories? And do you love narrative and character progression? Because that's the other thing that I think this game does better than a lot of games that I've seen on the market. The things you need to consider is the fact that you will be playing with a device, and a lot of the game can focus in on this digital implementation of the board. I find myself checking cards and scanning things and interacting with everything on the table, but there is an iPad here on the table, and some people, not myself, but some people still aren't comfortable with a digital hybrid of a board game. I personally put my iPad on airplane mode, download the app or the scenario we were playing, and I'm never interrupted throughout the course of play. I find the music, the noise, the ambient effects, and the ability to zoom and look in detail really provides a lot to the play experience. And this app runs the game as a DM, a dungeon master, which allows everyone to engage in the back and forth in conversation better than some other implementations that I've seen. That being said, if you're not comfortable reading out loud, engaging in silly or interesting voices, and really digging into the experience of the storytelling, this also might not be the perfect game for you. The final thing that I would say is I really, really, really love the storytelling. With one core caveat, I find that the overarching story is good, the personal stories are amazing, and I'm not always invested to replay the same character scenario to scenario. I will play every second of content they give me here with Destinies, but I'm still undecided as to whether or not I'll replay every second of content. So take a look at what they're adding and take a look at the different gameplay videos to gauge whether or not you think you'll be journeying through this as a 4-player, 3-player, 2-player, or solo game. And depending on that, will determine how much you'll dig into and continue digging into the time that's available here in the puzzle. If I was playing this as a 2-player game, which I think is my preferred player count, I'd play through each scenario probably twice, so that I can see each narrative and watch it progress throughout the story, because it does change and impact, and there's tons of items and resources and exploration we haven't seen. And I might give it a swing solo if I wanted to try to perfect my score, get an A out of a D, do it a little bit more efficiently, and find those little hidden puzzles that maybe I missed over. Or I might watch some other people's gameplays just to see the pathway they take to the end. That being said, the story progressing and the narrative expanding is really where I think the Dark Quarter is going to sing. As you watch your characters, your abilities and your levels just open up from adventure to adventure, scenario to scenario, and brutal murder to brutal murder. This, I think, as far as I'm aware, is one of the first openly and aggressively dark games on the market. Unapologetically so. Again, with gore, humor, alcohol, and, well, lots and lots of curse words. So, there we have it. That's the Dark Quarter. I'm very excited about this game. I wish they sent me more than an entire scenario and a prototype to play. And I cannot wait for the final game to arrive. I think I need to finish up all of the content from Destinies before this ships, because there's no way it's leaving my table for some time. So, thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.